Two of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters I look to sell this week. The first guy, Matt Chapman of the Toronto Blue Jays. So right here, these guys are playing over their head a little bit in the early going. And while they're at peak value, most of these players on this list, they're guys I would sell high this week. So Chapman on the season so far in the early going, he's tearing it up. 2 home runs, 14 RBIs, a stolen base, 7 runs scored, a .475 batting average, and a .523 on base. So he's pretty much on base half his at-bats. And he's almost hitting the half his at-bats as well. Here's Chapman. So last season, a down year with him with the batting average. Only .229, but he still finished with 27 home runs with Chapman. So right now, playing great baseball for this Toronto Blue Jay team. And a guy we know that's had great season with the Oakland Athletics before he got traded to Toronto a few seasons ago. But right now, he's playing over his head, in my opinion. And last season, like I said, .230 is a very low batting average. And for him to come out of the gate hitting .475, I think you'll get great value for him right now. So the last few games here for Chapman: April 6th at Kansas City, 1 for 4, 2 RBIs. April 7th at the Angels, 1 for 4. April 8th at the Angels, 2 for 4, a homer, 2 RBIs. April 9th at the Angels, 3 for 5 in that one, a homer, 5 RBIs, a stolen base, and 2 runs scored. So the power's been there. The batting average has been there here for Matt Chapman. And right now, early in the season, I think you get a decent starter and a bat for him, because there's no way he's going to keep this up. And like I said, last season was a down year. No doubt about it, he could turn things around from last season to this year. But right now, he's playing out of his mind, this Chapman, and he's definitely a sell-high candidate. Next guy's Brandon Lowe of the Tampa Bay Rays. So Brandon Lowe, he's on a tear right now for this undefeated Tampa Bay Ray team in the early going. On the season, 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, .292 average, and 10 runs scored with a .469 on base. So right here, this Tampa Bay Ray team, every night, they're finding a way to win ball games. And Brandon Lowe's definitely been a big part of it. But last season, in 235 at-bats, he had a down year, was low, 8 home runs only, 25 RBIs, and a .221 average. So right now, he's off to a hot start. And he's got good value to sell high as well, where obviously he qualifies at second base, and it's one of the weaker positions in fantasy baseball. So the last few games here for Lowe: April 4th at Washington, 1 for 5 with a run. The 5th and 7th, he sat out those ball games banged up. And now he's been on a tear, though, 4 games in a row with a home run for Lowe. April 8th versus Oakland, 1 for 2, a homer, 3 RBIs, 4 runs scored. April 9th versus Oakland, 2 for 4, a homer, 5 RBIs, 2 runs scored. April 10th versus the Red Sox, 1 for 3, a homer in that one. And April 11th in that ball game, 1 for 3 with a homer. So right now, 4 games in a row with a home run, and that spells out sell-high candidate for sure with Brandon Lowe. Like I said, last season, 8 home runs in 235 at-bats, and so far, already 4 home runs, half his total of last year for Lowe, and only 27 at-bats. So right now, he's definitely a sell-high candidate. This week, the next guy, Bryan Reynolds of the Pittsburgh Pirates. So last season, I thought was fluky for Bryan Reynolds, where he had a monster year, 27 home runs, 62 RBIs in terms for him, and .262 average with 74 runs scored. But so far this season, he's tearing the cover off the ball. 5 home runs, 14 RBIs, 10 runs scored, 2 stolen bases, a .366 average, and a .378 on base. So he's swinging early in the count. He's getting great contact, obviously. But over there in Pittsburgh, that Pittsburgh lineup that pitchers are scared of, even though I know Reynolds bats early in the lineup, second. I think right now the numbers are going to go down. And right now, while he's playing great baseball, he's definitely a guy with sell high. I still think he could have 25, 30 home run power. Once again, is Reynolds here. But like I said, he's off to an amazing start early in the season, and he's definitely a sell high guy. The last few games, April 7th versus the White Sox, 3 for 5, a homer, 6 RBIs, 3 runs scored. April 8th versus the White Sox, 1 for 4, run, a rib, stolen base. April 9th versus the White Sox, 1 for 4. April 10th versus Houston, 0 for 4. And April 11th in that one versus Houston, 1 for 4 in that ball game. So right here, Reynolds, like I said, he's off to a hot start. Leads the league in home runs, tied with Pete Alonso with 5. And it's a perfect time to sell him high, because I just don't see that batting average staying up there. And the power, like I said, definitely could be legit. But he's playing way over his head at this point of the season early on. And I would sell him high this week. Next guy's Gleyber Torres of the New York Yankees. So Gleyber Torres, he's off to a great start in the early going. After the last few seasons, haven't been that great of seasons for Gleyber Torres in terms of batting average and on base, even though last season was a bounce back type of year with the 24 home runs. But anyway, on the year for Torres, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, 5 stolen bases already. So the bigger bases have definitely helped Gleyber Torres out in the early going, where last season he only had 10 stolen bases, and he's already halfway there in about 2 weeks and 7 runs scored. So right now, Torres playing good baseball. This Yankee team, they're hitting the baseball pretty well here, but he's not a guy, I don't know if he's going to sustain it, especially the high batting average on the season here for Torres at 387 with an absurd 537 on base percentage. So the last few games here for Torres: 5th versus Philly, 3 for 4, 2 RBIs, 2 stolen bases. April 7th in Baltimore, 1 for 3 with a run. April 8th in Baltimore, 1 for 2. April 9th in Baltimore, 0 for 4. April 10th in Cleveland, 2 for 3 with a run. And April 11th at Cleveland in that one, 1 for 4 with a run. So right now playing great baseball. But like I said, he's on base half the time plus is Gleyber Torres. And this is not going to stand up for him. And this is not going to stay, obviously, here for Torres. So right now, while he's white hot, he's a perfect sell high candidate. And fifth and final hitter I look to sell high and trade this week here is Brian Anderson of the Milwaukee Brewers. So Anderson got off to a hot start with his new team in Milwaukee. After the last few seasons, he was with the Miami Marlins. And, you know, over there, not a lot of hitting was happening. But so far this season for Anderson, 3 home runs, 10 RBIs, 8 runs scored, a 333 batting average, a 447 on base percentage. So right now he's playing great baseball. He's showing major pop as Anderson, no doubt about it. Last season only 8 home runs, and already this year with the 3 home runs and only 30 at bats. So Anderson, the last few games he's definitely struggled, and he's slumping as Anderson. 0 for his last 10, but he's a guy that I still would sell high. Qualifies at third and outfield, good versatility for fantasy baseball. And like I said, the Brewers here, they got him batting 4th or 5th usually in the lineup here. So the last few games for Anderson: April 7th versus the Cardinals, 1 for 2 with a run. April 8th versus the Cardinals, 0 for 4. April 9th versus the Cardinals, 0 for 3. And April 10th at Arizona, 0 for 3, but he's still a sell-high candidate. Numbers are up there with the 333 average and the 44.7 on base percentage here. And right here, he's just a guy that I don't think he'll keep this up as Brian Anderson. Like I said, last season, he had 338 at-bats, a 222 average with 8 homers and 28 RBIs. So right now, while he's off to a roaring start and helping this Brewer team in the early going and getting an everyday opportunity, batting in a decent spot in the lineup, he's a perfect sell-high guy, and I think you get a decent starting pitcher in a deal for him. So that's a few hitters I look to sell and trade here in Week 2 of the fantasy baseball season.